Hello, and welcome back to the Colthaginian Republic under Zano Mizzlecultid. And now we are going to disband the revolutionaries. The revolutionaries did their job in helping to overthrow the Zarkids. Now that our goal has been achieved, we need to restore order. A swarm of armed radicals, most of whom are little better than bandits, should not remain as a destabilizing force in the country. The ruffians must step aside and let a more respectable cohort take the reins. Yes, of course. Because who would be better than us? No one. It's just true. We're perfect. We are perfection. And there is no other way about it. Like, we are the perfect beings. So, you know. Zarashat refuses to comply. It is good that you invited me here, Sulfrit Zara. Zano Mizzlecultid smiled as he sat down in front of the Sulfrit in his office. There was a colored spot on the wall where the portrait of Zamilcar Zarka used to be, which was only partially covered by a painted scene depicting Zinacel Zildelid revolt against the Quagatai almost 200 years ago. The new Sulfrit was a bit more subtle in his choice of decoration, at the least. Zara gave a nod. The leader of the so-called Liberation Army of the East has rejected our call to stand down, Mr. Mezzocaut. And before retaliating, I wanted to discuss our options. Both Zebras knew well that the Sulfrit was beholden to the leader of the Constitutionalists, but neither wanted to state the power dynamics explicitly out of respect for the office. Regrettably, that does not mean we should do anything rash. Zara smiled slightly. I figured you would advise against it. But are you not afraid we will look weak? We would look weak if we would accept no for an answer and rush into conflict with our own citizens. We should invite the stallion to Colthage and show we are prepared to do our utmost for peace. Mizzlecultid rubbed his hoof on his beard. Zarashat's aura is positive, although I sense calamity close by, and I would like to meet him in person. Zarani Zara smiled and nodded, hiding his slight discomfort at Zano's final remark. The Zebra was a skilled politician, but his spiritualism made him seem aloof. You make an astute point, although I am wondering if now would not be the best time to strike and restore national unity. The people do not want more bandits running around, whatever they may call themselves. We'll have to disarm them by force them. No, we don't want them to violently secede. Let us invite him to negotiate. That seems like a much more fair thing to do. The meeting at Colthage. The grand gate at the citadel of Colthage was wide open, guarded by two sacred vanguards, dressed in all white, motionless like statues. Even a Coltvan trying to get their attention by waving her hoof right before a guard's eyes did not cause him to so much as blink. Zarashat quickly gave his friend a shove. Excuse my friend, she's never been to this city before. Come on, we have a lot of formalities to go through. Like a teacher on a school trip, the leader of the rebels herded his entourage up the hill into the citadel, towards the formalities waiting for them. First up was a firing salute, and the Colthan delegation bunched up behind Zarashat, looking nervously at the Colthaginian soldiers standing at attention with loaded rifles. Wait a minute. Wasn't General Orzagid supposed to welcome us here? One of the delegates whispered. As a Colthaginian general barked orders, showing off the drill of soldiers, the soldiers aimed their rifles at the sky. A shout. No, wait, that's Garza! A dozen shots fired at the sky, but one stallion collapsed. There were screams all around as the Coltvans rushed around their Coltvan leader on the ground, and bystanders ran away from the scene. A dozen soldiers stared at each other, frozen in disbelief. Zeshmunistez Zarashat was rushed to the hospital, the Sulfrit and Zano arriving soon after. Every Zebra present agreed the doctors tried their best to save the Coltvan leader's life, but to no avail, as he died an hour into the surgery. From there, the story diverged. Official Colthaginian investigation points to a freak accident with no culprit. However, the Coltvans who were present swear to have seen Benom Gurza, well known for his cruelty against his fellow Coltvans during the Storm King's reign, present at the firing salute. Cooler voices are drowned out by rhetoric rhetoric, and Coltha and Carthage prepared for war once more, as Zesh's dream of peaceful solution died with him. The thing is, see? He's not aloof. His spiritualism, he said that it was looking bad. And look at that, he was right. Minus 10 stability, remove them from Colthaginian Republic, and Colthva will violently succeed from Colthrid. The Colthvin Revolution. The cries came slowly at first. From creature to creature, the message was passed, and they became louder and louder. A ripple into a splash, into a wave, and finally into a storm. The call of revolution has arrived in Colthva, and Zarashat has emerged from hiding to answer it, except it's not Zarashat. They should probably have a different event for this one, but oh well. Revealing themselves to the center, along with the top general, Ozid, the LAE members among the city's population joined them and quickly drove the Colthaginian garrison out of the city. When the fort at the top of the Great Hill was taken, a new banner was raised, the red horseshoe of a farmer over a yellow banner of hope. Colthva has stood up, and they will not kneel again without bloodshed. Damn Zarashat and his lackeys, long live the revolution! Long live Colthva! We are now the Colthaginian Republic. Or we're about to be, after it loads. Here we are. But we're not oh yeah, we are under Zarashat. We're just under a different Zarashat. That's fair, I guess it does work. They just kept it as Zarashat. Yeah. Zarashat. Zarashat could have had it all, had it not been for our older brother's need to try to save the world. As a talented student, with a knack for building useful connections, she had arranged everything for a career in Colthage, where she would work for a member of the Zarashat family. It would have been her springboard to wealth and recognition, had not Zarashat ruined everything with his need to challenge authority. After he became an outlaw, Zarashat's future fell apart before her eyes, and it was not long before the authorities came looking for her as well. Though her brother bailed her out, Zarashat never forgave him, nor did she ever forget what she lost thanks to him. As part of the Liberation Army of the East, Zarashat's ambition found some distractions, as she refused to not get involved. But though she earned her place, she ended drinking heavily when she realized she would never become anything more than a simple criminal stuck in her brother's delusional crusade. Zarashat dying was the only good thing her brother had ever done for her, as she found herself in position to seize control over the ALE, and finally, for the first time in many years, turned the path of her life the way she wanted it to go. Zarashat could have had it all, and with her brother out of the way, she may have it yet. You have Colthvin monopolists. Much of the land in Colthva belongs to a small clique of Colthaginian landowners who are not very enthusiastic about the current rebellion and have a strong power base thanks to their estates. They may be handled swiftly before they can collude into a wider movement against us. We have Garza discontent. The Colthaginian general Garza is fanning the divide between our urban and rural supporters, hoping to unravel our movement from within. We are an insurrectionary army. The people of Colthva have arisen to fight against their oppressors. Though volunteers are numerous, many lack any real combat experience, aside from the veterans of the insurgency. The War of Independence. We've been betrayed. The constitutions have proven themselves to be no better than the Zarashat oppressors. For Colthva! And now, I guess I'll start building some air bases on this side of the country, right? Might as well. What else am I going to do, right? And once again, try to finish these. Which I tried to do with the last nation too and didn't finish. Sure, we'll begin implementing land reforms, which we probably won't even get to finish. A land reform was once one of our key promises to the peasants. We'll seize land from the oligarchs who have oppressed our people for so long and set up tribunals to determine historical land claims, so the land will be returned to its rightful owners. Then we will take 1/3 of the land owned by them and give it back to those farmers who toil upon it. Let's see. Okay, we don't have anything like that, so I'll just throw you on and tell you to start moving. Now we get to rebel from the other direction. I want you to go the southernmost path. I want you to just head straight forward and go the middle path after. One of you is going to do that, while the other one of you two is going to head straight for the capital, then move up. The rest of you, yes, just get to the front and push. Just keep going, my troops. And I'm gonna go ahead and let the land reform finish, because why not? I've 1 day off anyways. A promise kept. For the longest time, Koltva's vast farmlands were the domain of a small number of landowners who, with the complicity of the Zarkid regime, extended their domain and stole the land that gave substance to countless Koltvans and their families. As a result, the communal lands that had been tended for centuries by the self-management of local villagers were swallowed either by force or law. By the larger estates, their farmers turned to nothing more than wage labor for the landowners. This sad state of affairs shall go on no longer. One of the main points of the Kazib-Zeb plan has always been the redistribution of the stolen land. Now that Zarkid's hold on Koltva had been shattered for good, Zarashat had full intention of delivering on this promise as soon as possible. In many cases, the process was quite simple and straightforward, where the landowners had already fled. Either willingly or not, the farmers themselves had proceeded to tear down the enclosures and reoccupied their land. In other places, though, violence and merciless retributions occurred. Thankfully, those were rare cases, and violence was avoided most of the time. The new government quickly negotiated adequate compensation with the remaining landowners, as the support from Colthage had evaporated nearly overnight. There weren't many remaining options for them. Some creatures may call such policies radical and assault on private property, perhaps. Zarashat, though, they were nothing more than the writings of an ancient wrong, as the fruits of labor had returned to Koltva's farmers. Land and liberty for all. Peace in our time? The war has been long and bloody, but Zarashat has found herself in control of the entirety of Kolthage, the inheritor of her brother's legacy. As the dust settles and the LAE begins to look around them, they realize what has just occurred. Their rebel province now controls the entirety of the nation. Zarashat herself can barely believe it. Finally, a chance to be her own zebra, to be out of her brother's shadow, once and for all. But the people and the army want blood. The blood of those who killed their prize commander, and so Zarashat shall deliver. Vengeance for Zarashat, death to the tyrants. We now have a crisis of authority. We have a devastating famine. We have an illegitimate government. And we have her, who is a hedonist and a depressed alcoholic. Everything's coming up us. And now, well, let me make a save real quick. And I'm going to call this choice. Because I'm going to come back to this. I will just come back to this part of the playthrough if we ever want to play Zarashat or Zarashat. Just if we ever actually want to play as her instead of the actual thing we're doing this playthrough. Now, unlike that one, one we are doing, which I haven't played before, I have done a Zarashat playthrough before, and it's actually quite a lot of fun. I actually quite enjoy her. She's a fun playthrough. But in Zarashat's memory, through the fire and the storm we have fought, despite the trials and despite the loss of a beloved leader, we came out on top. Now, at the founding of the great Carthaginian... Okay, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to read these events because they're for Zarashat. I'm going to save these events, like actually reading them, for when we get around to actually playing as her. I don't want to it feels like a spoiler to read the stuff here when we're not going to play as her. Plus, that kind of just feels wrong. Like, come on. No, we just got to do things that'll hurt us and make us in an even worse state than we already are. Okay, we will read this one just because, yeah. Hippone has fallen. What information we have is disjointed and sometimes contradictory. But what we do know is that the militants have seized the Hippone region. They are seemingly not connected to any of the factions we have contended with so far, and instead seem connected to the local patricians somehow. Wherever these masked figures come from, though, they have quickly established a hard grip over the region. They are numerous and well-armed, and the best we have managed to achieve is to contain them in Hippone for now. Who are these people, even? Now we are going to just do our wrath on everyone. Just take everyone out. It doesn't matter who we're taking out. Everyone's got to die. Just truly, everyone has to die. Simple as that. Look, everyone die. Simple as that. Everyone who was against us, well, you're gonna die now. So, yeah, simple as that. Prepare for death. We don't need troops. That's silly. There, this'll make us lose even more authority. Exactly what we want. It actually is important to get rid of this fairly early, even in a normal one, because depressed alcohol, because if you want to go down and do some good things, like working with people, it's actually fairly important. But no one cares about it. But in this case, I'm just doing it to lose authority and become weaker. A Requiem for a Dream. Zarashat looked out from her personal manor on the island of Zijabra. Things weren't going well. The damned Starites had repelled government forces from Hippone once again, and she couldn't be in Colthage because there were threats on her life. There would be a war. Another one. But Zarashat didn't care. This night had done nothing for her. It had thrown her into the dirt, forced her into a life she didn't want to live, made her a fugitive and a soldier. If it wished to throw itself onto the blade of death, then so be it. She'd just give it a push. Leaving the balcony, she went to the game room where some sides were smoking and playing poker. Speaking to one of them, she said, "Well, I say the game's up. Get an Air Force plane." We're getting out of here. The zebras began to stand up and meander out of the room. They all knew this would happen by now, but they were stopped by Zarashat. Oh, and pack up the state gold reserve with us. We'll need it for our retirement plans. And plus, Colthage isn't going to do any good with it anyways. The end is nigh. Yep, now we got a basic focus tree. You're still our leader, technically. Mostly because we haven't realized you've left yet. The cracks unfurled. How could it have all gone so wrong? General Zanet Manzano stood looking over a set of maps in the war room under Colthage. The warm fire in the corner lit her work. The Starites in the west, Gurza's forces in the rural regions, and now there was even resistance in Koltva. Then on top of that, Zarashat kept insisting on going to her Plazy mansion on the Zal's Forsaken Island. A thumping headache ran through her head, banging at the sides of her skull like something wanted to escape. The feeling like she needed to go lay down. Manzano is only brought back to reality when she hears a loud knocking on her door. She must have not heard it at first. Over her migraine, opening the door, her aide nearly collapsed at her hoof. He's exhausted. General Suffret has fled. The pain got worse. No, Zarashat couldn't have abandoned her. She would never do that. Her skull throbbed. What about all their plans, the nation they would build together? Does she just not care? Her mind burned with anger and pain. No, stop kidding yourself, Manzano. She never cared. She's a raging drunk who has existed despite her brother. You offered her friendship and she threw it away. The pounding won't stop. Zal, damn her. To Tartarus with her and all her lackeys. Make the pain go away. Thrashing the office, Manzano threw everything she could reach into the fire. The mats, Zarashat's books, paintings, everything was already burning. What's a bit more? In her fit of rage, Manzano screamed, releasing all her pent-up fury, and then began to think. The beating subsided, and Manzano turned back to the aide, who was now cowered in fear. Ozid was abandoning us. Rally what's left in the army. I'll do this myself. This is not good. The Federation has collapsed. Well, seems like things are going well so far. Here's the Colthaginian Republic. Under Arvo Ozid. Very, very popular man. Everyone knows him. The champion of the people. He is. Yep. Everyone knows that about him. And now we're under Zanet Manzano, the failed Federation. With the collapse of Zarashat's dictatorial and destructive regime, General Manzano has taken control of the state as head of the Colthaginian Federal Army, setting up a temporary junta to restore order in the nation. While being the legitimate government comes with some benefits, it also ties up the many, many failures of Zarashat's short reign. Loyal but disintegrated army. Manzano's army is frankly a mess, made up of soldiers from either the original Liberation Army of the East that didn't defect to Ozid, or soldiers recruited during the Zarashatan period that couldn't be bribed by Gurza. They are the devoted who pledge their loyalty to the general and restoration of order. If only they could fight as one cohesive army. Now we could pray. The boiling point. The front was even worse than Manzano thought it would be. Everything outside the city of Colthage was in absolute chaos, and many commanders had responded to her call. Most had turned into simple bandits and warlords, all a consequence of Zarashat's incompetence and hatreds. Manzano sighed and sat down on a rock near our camp. Warlords were one thing, but warlords were the same as Zarashat, self-interested and disorganized. She was far more worried about Gurza. That morning, she had gotten the news that Gurza had proclaimed a rival government in Trotcat. He claimed to be a constitutionalist, and some of the still living remnants of that movement had joined him. When Manzano looked at his files, she saw links to organized crime, mercenaries, drugs, and the technocrats. Some of the commanders she was hoping would join her had even pledged themselves to him. Who could she trust? Who were her allies? Sure, she was theoretically head of state, the head of the military, and held the capital. And she was honestly just another warlord. She needed legitimacy, but it would take someone completely desperate to take her up on an offer. Someone disempowered multiple times, looking for any way back into power. Manzano shot up, the Zarkids, and maybe even those Harmonites who Zarashat constantly complained about being cowards and traitors. They wouldn't work with Gerza, and they might be able to see through him. She had to work fast. The war changed by the hour, and soon enough the letters went out, addressed to Zelitharozarka and Zarashamid. At least it can't get worse, right? Gerza has played it tough. So now we have the United Republican Front over here. And, well, yeah, our building kind of failed because of that. Because, we lost that part of our territory. But yeah, we got them over here. They got the 5 cartels, the range banner, the Republican. Yeah. Oh. And here is us. But I think we'll learn about us and continue on our journey to fighting for our new cause in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And as always, peace.